Now let's look into eco-innovations Unwrapped, because innovative companies play this crucial role in a circular economy. And now please put your hands together for Julia Bialecka, CEO and co-founder of S-Lab, and Robin Wauters, founder of Tech.eu.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for joining us for this session. Thank you, Julia, for being here. Maybe a quick introduction for me, and then we'll get straight into it. My name is Robin Wauters. I'm the founder of Tech.eu, which is a media company covering European tech for the last 11 years now. So very, very happy to be back here at TechChill and meet so many interesting innovators and startups and investors and whatnot. Julia, do you want to start with a brief introduction as well?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for inviting me, and it's an honor to be here on this stage. So I'm Julia, I'm CEO and co-founder of S-Lab, and in S-Lab we produce a natural replacement of polystyrene or foamed plastic, basically this fluffy white thing that you receive when you buy electronics or any other products. So we replace it with a natural polystyrene with two components. One is agricultural waste, and the other one is mycelium, or network of mushroom roots. So it is 100% biodegradable, natural, and we aim to make it affordable to our customers.
Wow, she went straight into pitching. Did you notice that? You've done this before. But let's take maybe a step back. What's your background? Before you started this company, what were you doing?
Yeah, I have quite interesting, I would say, personal story. That I do have a master's degree in biotechnology. So this is related to my education, this startup. But actually, before or after I graduated, I was working in the IT software companies. I was managing teams, projects, processes. So this gave me a huge amount, loads of experience with working with teams, business side, presenting, pitching, and so on. So now at this startup, I'm actually able to combine both of those, my scientific background and skills or skill set with working with people.
But this is your first company, right?
I had some small entrepreneurial experiences, like small internet shop of clothes. But yeah, I would say that like as a venture, I would assume this as the first one.
Great. What you didn't mention is that you're Ukrainian and the company was started in Ukraine. When was this and how did it happen? Like, do you have co-founders? Did you have an initial investor? So what was the sort of the early days like?
Yeah, great question. So as everyone knows, the war started in 2022. And we founded our startup in 2021, so right before the war started. And actually, we were ending 2021 on peak of plans or scaling because we spoke with the top of the top companies, the biggest companies in Ukraine. They were all willing to work with us to purchase our packaging to utilize this. We were like all the TV channels in Ukraine made a video about us and they put it in a prime time. So like really end of 2021 was significant for us, and we were entering 2022 with such big plans. We were looking for space to buy, the land to buy, to build our production, and like there were so many plans, but then everything changed, and we had to relocate to other country, basically not in Ukraine. It was not safe physically to stay in Ukraine. We were in Kyiv and produced in Kyiv as well, and it was occupied for quite some time. And back to your question, we are two co-founders, me and my husband. So it's a kind of family business, but now it's also a business partnership.
Cool. I didn't know that before, so we'll get back to that. Okay, so you have to leave Ukraine for obvious reasons. Then how do you pick where you settle and where you sort of restart the company, because you have to move all the materials and sort of the people. How do you decide on where to do that?
So first of all, we decided this will be European Union, because of the regulations that force companies to use sustainable materials for the packaging as well. So of course, we saw that it would be easiest to implement and to actually sell and to have a market of the customers here in European Union. So we looked into all countries that are in European Union, and then we had some factors that were important for us. And among them were like salaries, the taxes, how easy is it to set up company, average temperature, not because we like climate, but because we need heating to produce our materials. So this was also important. And how close is the raw material? Then, based on those factors, there were two leaders, I would say, Portugal and Spain. But then, just for the personal preferences, we chose Spain. And also, we had partners there, the accelerator at that time. And that's how we moved to Spain, to Malaga.
Great. And now that you're there, how many people are you? And how big is sort of the space that you need to actually manufacture, etc.?
So we are a team of 10, and when we left Ukraine, it was only 3 of us. So we were able not only to relocate, but actually scale and build the team and scale the production. And we actually got a space to produce that is 200 square meters for free from Spanish government, as they want to support sustainable startups as well. And we got it for free for 5 years. So it's also a nice investment into our startup from Spanish government.
Okay, so let's talk about the product and what you provide in terms of technology. Now, before I started prepping for this interview, I didn't really know much about the packaging industry and how sustainable it is, or it should be. But I would imagine that if you're a big packaging company, and there are some really, really big ones out there, I would imagine that you've already started thinking about how to build these sustainable, decomposable packaging units for a very long time. So how much space is there for a startup to really innovate and make a dent?
Yeah, so those packaging companies, they do definitely look into the sustainable material, sustainable packaging, and their customers are actually demanding that. So they have to respond to this demand. But the thing is that it's a benefit, but disadvantage as well, that those companies are too big. And for them, it's really, really hard to change something, to innovate and to build something new. And it takes them really years, and it might not end up as they want to. So this is where the actually partnership and collaboration between startups like ours with those big companies comes in. And in our case, we are already in conversations with a couple of huge packaging companies who want to utilize our solution to use our technology and to produce this for their customers.
So rather than competition, you look at them as potential customers and partners.
Exactly,
okay.
Exactly. That's the way to look into it, I think, in this sustainability and ecosystem.
And do you focus on a particular sector where packaging really needs to sort of change and has room for change really quickly?
I would say that all the packaging has to change. But we are working in the industries that could utilize the type of the material and the packaging that we use, because, of course, not every product needs this polystyrene kind of replacement or foamed plastic. So we work mainly with cosmetics, beauty. We can provide cushioning for their products. Then we work with electronics as their lodgements for electronics and devices. Then we work with fashion and decor. They also need to protect their products. And we are looking towards food and pharmaceutics, as they use lots of polystyrene. But we have to go through some additional certification to work with those industries.
At the very beginning, you mentioned something about regulation. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because that's, of course, going to drive a lot of the business building and the go-to-market that you're going to have.
Yeah, exactly.
What's it like in Europe, and how is it different from, I don't know, US or Asia?
Yeah, so in Europe, in European Union, there is a directive that all the packaging has to be recyclable or usable by 2030. And it seems that it's kind of far away, but in order to switch to a new packaging supplier or several packaging suppliers who would fit the requirements of these regulations, it would take a couple of years, especially for big companies. So they are already looking into the solutions that they could utilize. And basically, for us, is goal to be out of scope. So we are not only recyclable and reusable, but we are also biodegradable. Because for every company using the packaging, it means that they have to they need to pay some fees for utilization of this packaging, or basically waste management. And also, if they do not switch to something that is based on these regulations, they will have to pay more taxes, they will have to go for additional reporting. So at the end, it will be more expensive for them to use plastic or even cardboard than to switch to the alternative, even though it will take some time and effort at the moment to implement that. And so this is European Union, and probably European Union is kind of the fastest in providing or setting those regulations, but of course other continents and countries have their own sort of green deals that are in Europe and regulations. I think so Europe has like very ambitious goal by 2030 to be climate neutral, but then US, I think Japan and like UAE, they want to get there by 2050.
Okay, a lot of movement. Do you consider yourself a tech company?
A tech company? Yeah, we do consider ourselves a deep tech company, hardware, sustainability, female founder, so many things.
But also kind of science-driven bio. So how much tech is in there that you can protect and that makes you unique enough to sort of, because it's not just the big packaging companies, there's also other startups, I assume, are playing in this field. So how do you sort of protect the IP?
Yeah, I would say that since it's such a hot topic, then more and more startups appear in sustainability and especially in sustainable packaging. So the worldwide packaging market is worth 1 trillion euros, and it's one of the most massive markets, basically. Then the sustainable segment is the most rapidly growing, like 15% growth every year, and still it's not enough, even with this big amount. And then again, naturally, that there are more startups appearing in this field. And our innovation is not in mixing agricultural waste and mycelium together, because this is how the process works in nature. This is a natural process of mushrooms growth. What we did, we actually created a technology around this process that enables us to produce at the industrial scale. And this is the main issue, I would say, with any alternative material, that they cannot be produced at the industrial scale. And we focused on that from day one. And we actually have 5 patents for the technology itself, how we are producing that.
You said mushroom growth, that's the mycelium part of the,
Yep.
like I'm not an expert clearly. Can you maybe walk us through what makes mycelium so special? Because it's quite fascinating, right?
Yeah, so basically mycelium is, you kind of can call it a root system of the mushrooms. It's not biologically correct, but for everyone to understand, it's something similar to the roots in the trees. And it has this natural feature of gluing everything together. Basically, it is growing on this agricultural waste or any plant-based component, and is kind of eating nutrients from these plants, and then starts rapidly growing and creating nets like a spider, and it really binds it all together with this net.
Super fascinating. But it also opens up a lot of other opportunities, I guess, to work with this material. Are you going to stick to sustainable packaging? Is that your sort of the core focus, or do you see yourself expanding into other areas?
Now, clearly, we want to do other types of the materials using this technology. And actually, the technology that we developed allows us to produce other types of the material by just changing one last stage of the process. And we could do mushroom cardboard, board, foam, leather, and even we could do beyond meat stuff like bacon or others. So of course it is in our pipeline to not only do packaging, but we saw that there is a huge problem actually with the packaging, and we can tackle it at the moment, and then we can scale to other types.
Absolutely fascinating. I asked you earlier, I don't think there was a clear response. So the other startups are probably in this field as well. Okay, you have some patent protection, but how do you plan to sort of go to market, make yourself known, create awareness around this? What's the plan?
We actually already have customers that we serve and that rely on us for their monthly packaging needs. And at the moment, it's limited to the amount of the packaging that we can produce, but we are launching an automated production line that will be already industrial scale in just a couple of weeks. So it is really built as we speak. We already have all the proof of concept and recurring customers who are ordering at the moment. And we also have a pipeline of the future customers who are actually waiting for us to launch this production line. And I would say probably the biggest accomplishment at the moment, or one of the biggest accomplishments, is that we had a paid pilot with L'Oreal, one of the biggest, probably biggest cosmetics producer. And at the moment we are working on the contract to become their supplier. So basically they do show their support already. So I think it was one of the things that we did right. From day one, we started to reach out to potential customers to collect their feedback. So we were not just building something based on our assumptions. We actually went to our network of our network, spoke with different kind of companies, different industries. We're trying to find where we should focus, what would be the industry that is right for this. So we were building this based on the feedback of the customers.
Any lessons you can teach aspiring entrepreneurs, how you get your foot in the door with L'Oreal, for example? Because I can imagine as a small company that's not something evident, right?
Yeah, I mean, first, very obvious networking. I already had some network that I built while I was working in this product companies in IT, but I was just aware of the ecosystem. So this is number one, just network, and not necessarily network for networking, just have normal relationship talks with people, just do it normally in a human way. And then I would say that in our journey, there were lots of support from accelerator programs, incubator programs, even then the business angels that invested into us. So we were always, when we were looking for partners, for accelerators, even for investors, we were not only looking into money, but in what else they can bring into the table. Do they have network? Do they have connections? Do they have experience? How they can be valuable also, like what could be additional value there. So I think also look always into that when you are getting into a relationship with someone, especially if it's an investor, what additionally could be there. And yeah, that what I mentioned, that we were so early to talk to the customers, we were not afraid to show our ugly samples, but just to kind of understand if it's even needed, if we need to spend the time, or should we pivot to something different. So I think those, like, if I could say, 3 main lessons that throughout our journey, and like maybe wrapping it all is that we try to be visible and not to be shy, or we need to raise awareness, because we are sure that there are companies that actually are looking, and we heard this from the companies, that they are looking for solutions like ours and like others as well, but maybe they just cannot reach out to us because they do not know us and we might not be visible. So we'll try to raise awareness and be anywhere we can.
Super important, and you also recently won an award. Congratulations for that.
Thank
the
you.
EIT Innovation Awards, I think it was called.
Yeah, EIT Women Leadership Award.
There you go. So, but that also helps with visibility, right? So, I should have asked this question earlier, but you're talking about customers, but I didn't quite understand what the revenue model is. Do you license the technology, or is it a fixed fee, or how does it work?
So at the moment, our business model is we produce packaging based on the monthly orders. So we have contracts with the customers where we set the minimum monthly order and we produce them on a monthly basis, which makes it a little bit of a recurring revenue, which every startup wants to get into. So this is at the moment what we do, but then we are going to license our technology, and actually we will be getting service fees from these productions that we are going to set for the customers. So this is more beneficial, as we see that being a packaging company, it involves lots of operations. But then when you can actually sell your innovation and license your technology, it is much more. It will bring more revenue, basically.
And obviously, you're positioning yourselves also as a potential acquisition target for the big packaging companies at some point.
Yeah,
right? So,
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So what's it like doing this with your husband?
I knew this would come up. I would say that for us, it's a quite obvious decision to work together. We have a very complementary experience. So I have master degree in biotechnology and lots of hands-on experience on managing people. And he is a very hardware-focused guy, production, everything. So basically, I am CEO, he's CTO, and this kind of puts a line into our responsibilities. So this is like one thing that my recommendation: always clarify what you do, and if you are if you want to do this with a friend, with a family, with a sister, brother, if you have similar expertise, probably will not work because you will try to So first, and then we've been together for many years, like more than 10 before we started the startup. So of course we already had the trust built, all the issues that could come up in the personal communication already resolved. So it was a very clean relationship, and we were coming clean into this startup, and then we also legally kind of did everything. So I would say that at the end it's all about separating business life and private life. So for example, I never answer his questions on Sunday regarding the startup. I tell him, come to me on Monday.
Awesome. We only have a minute left. Where do you see SLAB in, let's say, 3 years from now? Where do you want to be?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, of course, I would like to see all the polystyrene replaced. And I think that for me, measure of success is would if I go to the shop and I buy some perfumes and they are packed into our packaging, this would be a measure of success, definitely. So I want to see ourselves as the provider of this technology, and then seeing this change towards sustainable packaging. And I'm sure that this will lead to other changes in the sustainable market overall.
Fantastic. I think you're doing great work. Thank you for making the world a little bit more sustainable, one step at a time. Round of applause for Julia and S-Lab.
Thank you.